The head of Live Nation faced some really tough questions from senators yesterday over how Ticketmaster botched pre-sale tickets for Taylor Swift's new tour. Ticketmaster, the world's largest ticket seller, says it expected Swifties to rush its website, just wasn't prepared to handle all those bot attacks.
We were then hit with 3 times the amount of bot traffic that we'd ever experienced.
Our critical infrastructure in this country, whether it is utilities, electric, water, you know what? They get bot attacks every single day by the thousands. By the thousands. And they have figured it out, but you guys haven't. This is unbelievable.
That's why we brought in our bot battler to discuss the hearing and what's going on with Ticketmaster, our legal expert, Whitney Traylor. And, we've talked about this. One of the things that Ticketmaster faces is they have no friends.
Right. No friends.
Nobody's in their corner. Nobody's going to say, hey, Ticketmaster's doing a heck of a job. I love their convenience fees. Do the hearings, though, clutter the legal, what's going to become, we think, a class action lawsuit? Does it alter the landscape at all for what we might see in court?
No, I don't think so, because, of course, the Senate can do something. They're still under a consent decree, Ticketmaster and Live Nation. So the Senate can come in and try and break it up through the judiciary. So, no, they can be involved. And then the other lawsuits can go forward, which they are. The Swifties, and there's a number of lawsuits. But you're exactly right that Ticketmaster is not liked right now, and it was pointed out that this may be the only hearing that all the Democrats and Republicans
Oh yeah, it was a total bipartisan. They all became Swifties in that moment.
Exactly.
And I don't even know if they were Swifties, but they also talked about, they brought up some of the artists too. I mean, they're getting ripped off. I mean, all the way around, Ticketmaster just had not a good look.
Right, well, and you have to consider a monopoly and what the notion of antitrust, because it's a little counterintuitive when you think about, free market capitalism.
Yeah, what is it?
Right, but so what happened was back in the 1800s, John Rockefeller controlled all the oil. And when we got 4 railroads, he wouldn't let anybody use the oil if they tried to use a different pipeline. And so they said, this is anti-competitive. We won't have competition. So that was, Standard Oil was the first company broke up by the Sherman Act in 1890. And so now what the notion of a monopoly is that, look, Ticketmaster controls 70% of ticket sales and distribution and promotion, and because there's no competition, they're bad. They're charging fees. There's nobody to compete with them, and so that's why the artist, for example, came in to say, here's how Ticketmaster impacted me. If I went with a different distributor, they'd actually retaliate against me. So there was very convincing testimony under oath from a number of different people showing how this was monopolistic.
So we see FOC, Friends of Congress, like the large sporting leagues, have antitrust exemptions that seem to many to be arguable as to whether or not they really are, monopolies or not. Ticketmaster, was contending, and Live Nation contending that they are not a monopoly, but it seems like they might have a tough argument to make there.
I think it's a tough argument because they control more than 70% of the market for ticketing. And all the artists have issues if they try not to use them. There's hard evidence, at least that has been presented, that they have retaliated. And 20% of their ticket prices, we don't know what the fees are, and nobody could actually figure it out. So when you have that type of control, and then you see the Swifties really elevated this and brought it to more of an attention. But of course, Pearl Jam's been battling them in the 90s. Lots of people tried. But I think the reason why you got some traction here was really the Swifties, because Amy Klobuchar even said, I've been trying to do this. I've been looking at Ticketmaster. And that's what's surprising. AOC and lots of others have talked about Ticketmaster and Live Nation should have never even been approved in 2010.
Some traction. We'll see what comes of it. But at this point, it was an interesting day yesterday. And because of Taylor Swift's name and recognition, a lot of people are paying attention, and that might make a difference this time. Whitney, we always appreciate your insight. Thanks for taking a few minutes to join us.
Sure thing. Good to be here.
And I still don't have tickets, do you?
No.
I didn't even try that hard, though. I knew I was going to be left out.
Lawsuit.
Okay.
I'll call
All
you.
right.